So Secretary Higginbottom.
Thank you very much. Chairman Ryan, Ranking Member Van Hollen, and distinguished members of the Budget Committee, thank you for having us here this morning, and good morning. On behalf of Secretary Kerry and the diplomats and development experts at our 275 diplomatic posts around the world, thank you for your support and for inviting me to talk about the FY 2015 Overseas Contingency Operations Request. As Secretary Kerry has said, there is no longer anything foreign about foreign policy. Diplomacy and development matter more than ever to the lives of ordinary Americans. In addition to preventing conflicts so we don't have to put our troops in harm's way, we are fighting for American businesses, stopping the spread of weapons of mass destruction, keeping our edge in science and innovation, assisting American citizens abroad, supporting our partners and allies, and honoring our values. Every day, the men and women at the Department of State and the U.S. Agency for International Development are on the front lines, often with our troops at their sides, tackling these challenges, seizing these opportunities, and protecting the American people. The President's amended FY 2015 budget request of $47.6 billion for state and USAID will provide these exceptional public servants the resources, training, and security needed to get the job done. The OCO portion of our budget, which enables us to address extraordinary requirements, is critical to that goal. The administration first requested OCO for state and USAID in FY 12 so that we could more responsibly budget for the extraordinary costs we were to incur in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Pakistan as our military footprint changed. As you know, while our country's wars are winding down, our engagement with the world is not. The diffusion of global power and the breakneck pace of change have only underscored the importance of American leadership and have increased the demands on the State Department and USAID. Since 2012, global events, from the Arab Spring to the civil war in Syria, to Russian aggression in Ukraine, to extremist threats in Africa, have demanded urgent action to protect our national security. And such challenges and opportunities will continue to emerge. The FY 15 state USAID budget request, as amended, includes $7.3 billion for OCO. The majority of our OCO request supports the extraordinary costs to state and aid resulting from the transition in Afghanistan and our work in Iraq and Pakistan. In particular, these resources are vital to our objectives in Afghanistan, disrupting threats posed by al-Qaeda, supporting Afghan security forces, and giving the Afghan people the opportunity to exceed as they stand on their own. For Iraq, OCO funds will enable us to continue to stand with the people of Iraq as they fight terrorism and work to establish a democracy and a better future. The OCO request also supports efforts to protect the Syrian people from the abuses of the regime, promote the conditions for a negotiated settlement, and respond to the humanitarian fallout through the provision of essential services, food, water, and medical care to those affected by the crisis, both within Syria and in neighboring countries. On June 26th, President Obama submitted an OCO budget amendment, which includes $1 billion for the State Department portion of the Counterterrorism Partnerships Fund to help keep America safer by improving our partners' core counterterrorism capabilities and addressing the underlying conditions for the recruitment of terrorists. The amendment also includes $75 million for the State Department's portion of the European Reassurance Initiative to support our response to Russia's provocative actions in Ukraine, and $270 million to cover our costs for a new and unanticipated peacekeeping mission in the Central African Republic. Our base budget enables us to support ongoing operational needs, security partnerships, economic growth, health, and poverty reduction programs. The OCO request enables us to respond to frontline and immediate and exceptional national security risks in a disciplined, transparent manner. We appreciate the consistent support from Congress for this approach, and in particular, we're grateful that this committee has fully funded our OCO request in each budget resolution since FY 2012. As we developed the President's budget request, one fact remained front and center. With just 1% of the federal budget, our investment in development and diplomacy has never been more vital to our national security, our economic prosperity, and our global leadership. For the American people, for the American taxpayer, this is a tremendous return for the relatively small investment we make in diplomacy and development, and we are grateful to the Congress for your continued support. Thank you.